Hi guys, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. My name is Shalini Joshi Amdagni, and if we haven't met for some reason, then just a brief introduction. I'm Shalini Joshi Amdagni. I'm an international pain relief expert, and so what I do is I help people who are feeling stuck in pain, physical pain, or emotional pain feel relief quickly so that they can get on with their lives feeling peace and clarity. Welcome to this live session. If you're joining me live, come say hello. It's always exciting to see who's watching live with you. And if you're going to watch this on replay, do pop in and say hello as well. Our topic today is tips to consciously creating lasting change. So that's our topic today. And, we are at that month of the year, that time of the year when people are reflecting, and most people are reflecting and thinking about the past year and looking forward to the next year and thinking about creating the changes that they want to create in the year, whether it's, in the area of your relationships or the finances or just yourself, the new skills that you need to develop, or the, in relationships or in your family. So it's a time when we really focus on what's happened and what needs to change. And, they say that change is the only constant in life. And yet, when we want to make changes, right? You have noticed this in your own life. I know I'm not the only one on the planet, that it becomes really hard to create the changes that we want. We want to create the changes, but something is going on that keeps us from making the changes. And so how do we create those lasting changes that we want for ourselves, for our loved ones? So today, I'm going to talk about number one, willpower won't work. Willpower will not work in creating the lasting changes that you want for yourself. Number two, I'm going to share with you the surface story and the shadow story. And we're going to look at releasing resistance. Actually, I'm sharing with you some key questions that might be helpful in releasing and letting go of the resistance. And then creating aligned choices to create the lasting change. Going to, willpower won't work. I don't know what you're trying to do, right? Whether it's in the area of your body, yourself, your relationship, you're trying to create change. And if you want to create lasting change, then I don't know which area you're looking at, but if you're going to focus just on your willpower to create the changes, then it's really hard, because it's not just my experience. Research has shown that willpower alone will not be able to help you create those lasting changes. Think about health, right? Think about your health or your body, interrelated, and you've promised yourself, I'm not going to eat sweets, right? I'm not going to eat those desserts. But your environment, your family, your relationships, your social network, and social friendships and professional friendships and different areas of your life keep forcing you, right, to be in an environment that is not conducive to keeping away from the desserts, right? So what happens is an internal struggle begins. Like, I don't want to eat sweets. I don't want to have the cake. I don't want to eat the desserts. I don't want to. So there's this internal struggle, and you use willpower for a while, right? But after a while, you start to succumb, and you end up eating whatever you were not supposed to eat. And you can apply it in different areas of your life, right? Whether it's fitness and you want to go to the gym, and different areas of your life, keep you from doing that thing. So after a while, that willpower to like fight it and go against this inner conflict, kind of like, you get tired, you get exhausted fighting, and you generally succumb, right? Because willpower, the fact that we are using willpower, there's a guy, I forget his name now. I forget his name. So he has a book that's called Willpower Doesn't Work. And he says that if the fact that you're using willpower to get you to your goals, that you can see what's going on. Number one is that, your why to get the results, or to create the change you want, is not strong enough. You don't have a strong why. Because if you have a strong why, then, it's not just about willpower, it's inspiration. It's not you're pushing yourself, right? Because your why, you know exactly why you want to give it up. So maybe your why isn't strong enough. Then he talks about, I've got it here, point of no return. Maybe you haven't reached that point where you're sick and tired of being stuck with that overweight body, or that unhappy relationship, or that, this pain about the finances. Maybe you're not sick and tired and you haven't reached that point of no return. I'm never going to go back. I call it refusing to tolerate what you've been tolerating so far. So when you're not at that point, right, then willpower will not get you there, because you're going to, you're going to go this way, and everything else inside is going to push against that. And because your why is not strong, right? You don't have a strong why I should quit smoking, why I should go to the gym regularly. If it's not strong enough, then you haven't really made a firm decision that this is what I truly, truly want. Maybe you want it, and you can want so many things in your life, right? But it's not just a fancy desire. I want to lose weight. I want to have this trip. I want to make more money. I want to make more. You can want whatever you want and try to use willpower to get it. But if inside you're not sick and tired, and you're not ready, and you're not focused on why, and how important is that why to you, you will not make a firm decision, and you will not be able to create the change that you want. And so, who is it that said? Ralph Waldo Emerson said, once you make a decision, the entire universe conspires to bring that, whatever it is that you want, to you. So without a firm decision, which is not going to happen without a point of no return or knowing your why, willpower alone will not get you there. So moving on to, the surface story and the shadow story. So maybe you want a change for yourself in health, your body, the physical, whatever the area is. And there's a story you're telling yourself. Maybe it's finances. Let's look at finances. I want to make this much money this year. I want my business to make this much money. You're a solo entrepreneur like me, and you have this desire, like, I want to break this barrier. I want to earn this much. Okay, that's your surface story. That's the story that you consciously know. That's the story that you're consciously telling yourself. Okay? But then there's a shadow story, the hidden story, the underlying story that you're most probably not aware of. Okay? And it's gonna look like this. I hope I have it here. Okay, here it is. Wonderful. So surface story is that your mind, is divided into your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And your conscious mind, they say, you can Google it, is 10% of your entire mind, and 90% of your mind is underneath, the hidden part, the subconscious, things that you're not consciously aware of in the moment, right? So the surface story is, I want to create this change. I want to be here, in 2019. And then there is a shadow story. The shadow story is that I'm not there because blame, right? Blame the people around you, blame the circumstances that created your surface story, fears, doubts, worries from the past, old stories that you've been saying over and over. This is why we haven't reached this goal. This is why I'm not achieving this goal. And then there are limiting thoughts, beliefs, patterns, right? And if you just listen to yourself, you'll hear that shadow story when you're talking. There's a process that Joe Vitale, my mentor, Dr. Joe Vitale, from the famous book The Secret and the movie The Secret, he says, if you want to know what your story is, the shadow story, right? I'm calling it the shadow story. But if you want to know what's blocking you, listen to yourself talking to your friends, to your colleagues, to your spouse, and what are you saying? And if you find you're saying the same sob story over and over and over again of why you're not consciously achieving what you want, then you'll hear it. It's an old story, and the more you keep telling that story or the limiting belief, this is why I'm not able to achieve this, and this is why things have gone wrong, right? Or maybe you're very critical of yourself. We all beat ourselves up, and you say, I'm not good enough, I don't have it in me, I'm not committed enough. So all that negative self-talk and playing the same story over and over and over again, and blaming the environment around you, blaming people around you, blaming, it just doesn't help. But it's also the reason that keeps you stuck, right? And then the 10% part of you, the conscious part of you, really wants to achieve this goal, whether it's relationship harmony at your office, in your private life, with your spouse, with your children, or whether it's the finances that you want for your company, for yourself. That is just 10%. And so the 90% of you, I don't know if you can see this clearly, right? Is going round and round with blame and criticism and self-doubt and old patterns. It's called the default mode, because you don't even realize it, because you do it over and over again. You don't even realize that you're doing it. They say 90%, every single day you have, so many number of thoughts, and 80% of your thoughts are negative, and they're the same stuff. And so if you're not consciously going to be aware of the shadow story, then creating lasting changes is quite impossible, because you're fighting against 90% of your of your mind, which is pulling you in the other direction, and you want to go forward in the other direction, and you use all your willpower to push forward and make things happen. But the shadow stories will keep you stuck. And that's why you have to, number 3, release resistance, right? You have to release the resistance. And what's the resistance? Is all this stuff, right? Change, most people say change is hard. But when you think about it, it's not the change that's hard. It's releasing resistance to the change that's hard. It's releasing the old patterns, the old stories. You wanna hold on to your old patterns. You wanna hold on to the old story. This is why, because that's your truth. You believe that to be your truth, and maybe you're not willing to give it up because it gives you proof of why you're stuck. Right? It's like, this is why. But it's, you have to look at your story, the shadow story, and say, is this empowering me? Repeating the same thing over and over again to everyone I meet? Or is this disempowering me? Is it uplifting me, or is it draining my energy? And unless, even though you think it's the truth, right? Even though you think they're the reason, that's the problem, she's the problem, everything out there is the problem, even though some of it may be true, is it empowering you or is it disempowering you? And if it's disempowering you, then you have to release that, right? You have to release it. Otherwise, all that resistance against the 10% will not hold, and you will not be able to achieve it. So how can you release resistance? Here we go. So number one is you want to ask yourself, what do you want? Okay, what do I really want? What do I want for myself, for my relationships? You can go step by step, right? And then you want to look at, what's your shadow story? Like, what's the shadow story? What is the story? I want to have harmonious relationship in my office, in my house, with my kids. But, right, there's always a but. But the story is that my kids are to this thing, and my staff is to this thing, and they're so negative, and they just don't put in the hard work, or my kids don't do blah, 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 or my spouse is this way, and my boss is too critical, right? So this is what you want. You want harmony in your life, in your relationships, and then you have a shadow story. So you want to ask yourself, what is that? What's the shadow story that I've been repeating over and over and over and over again, right? This stuff. What have I been saying about relationships? You just can't trust people in relationships. People will cheat you. The staff is just not good enough, right? Or I just don't have it in me. So what is the story? If the focus is relationship, then what is the story that you're telling yourself, right? So you want to know, what do you want, whatever the area you pick, and then what's my story? What's my belief about this, right? So once you are aware, okay, then you know that's a shadow story. That's what's keeping you stuck, right? And I wanted to put this one first, is what if you change the story? What if you change that story, right? And how do you change the story? Is you can use different tools, techniques to release and let go of the resentment of the last time this happened. And it's, whatever you've been telling yourself. I use EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques. I'm going to put a link here. I have a video, I have a YouTube channel, EFT with Shalini. And in that I have a tapping video to release resistance. And I'm going to put it in here so that you can use that tapping video to release the resistance to the change that you want to create, right? And I don't know what tools you may be using, but you want to change your story by changing what you're thinking, feeling, believing, the same story that you've been telling yourself. So what if you changed your story? What if you had a different story? What if you had a more supportive, empowering story, right? I want to create this change, and here's what I'm willing to do, and I'm going to release and let go of all the negative programming, conditioning, limiting beliefs. And what if I change my story, right? Because if you have a new story, you have a new life. You have the same old story, you have the same old way, and you can't create lasting change. And what's your why? That's another way to, let go of all the negative. Like, what is the why? Why do I really want this? What am I willing to do no matter what comes in my way, right? What's my why? When I was sick because of chronic pain and costochondritis, the disease that I had, and I attended a seminar, and they said you create everything with your thoughts, you create your disease with your thoughts, and I didn't want to change. I didn't want to, I didn't want to accept that I'm creating my own change. I'm creating my own sickness. But I stayed open to that guy, the guy who was talking about this, the host of the seminar, because I had a very strong why. And my why was my kids. I wanted to change. I wanted to try everything out there for my kids, because they were just 5 and 6 years of age at the time, and I didn't want to be a vegetable lying on the bed kind of mom for the rest of my life. So I had a very strong why. Why am I going to change? Why am I going to have different, be open to different opinions, beliefs, new stories, right? So what is your why? If you don't have a strong why, it's really hard to create the change, to be open-minded, to be flexible, to allow that change, right? And then what if you tried a different way? What kept me stuck with my disease is I had been trying acupuncture, I had been trying physiotherapy, I had been trying ultrasound therapy, and I was stuck in chronic pain. Where's my wonderful I was stuck in chronic pain. I can't find, here it is. So physical, right? Physical or body or health. So I was stuck, and what was going on is I wanted a better feeling body. I wanted to have good health. I wanted to be physically fit, but I kept going back to the same way, the same tools, right? The same physiotherapy, the same ultrasound therapy, the same massage, the same acupuncture, and then it didn't work, and I went back to the same stuff. For some reason, even when things are not working, we just keep doing the same thing out of habit. We think maybe if we did it long enough, it's going to change. But if you've tried it long enough and that's not working, you have to try a different way. So what if you tried a different way? When I first heard about emotional freedom techniques, I thought it's the weirdest thing. Like this little tapping thing, the silly tapping. I don't even have to go anywhere, and not even acupuncture, right? With a professional licensed acupuncturist. I'm just going to sit and do this, and my disease and my pain is going to vanish. That's crazy. But my why was strong, and I had realized that there were things that were going on in my life that I had been telling myself that were creating these problems in my life. And so I was open to trying a different way, because Albert Einstein said it, right? That insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So what if, you got clear about what you want? What's your shadow story? Just talk to a friend and say, this is why I'm stuck. And you'll record yourself, and you'll discover all the reasons, the subconscious reasons why you may be stuck. And you want to release that and let it go. I use tapping. I'm going to put the link in here. Know your why. What if you change your story? And what if you tried a different way? Right? So creating lasting change is all about addressing those invisible underlying root issues to change the fruits you are getting in your health, the health fruits, the relationship fruits, right? You got to change the roots to change the fruits. And the last point was aligned choices for lasting change. And this is what I mean by aligned. So 10%, your conscious mind is 10% of your brain, and the subconscious is 90%, right? And the 10% wants change, whether in health, whether in finance, whether it's relationship, whether it's self, you want to learn new things and have new skills. And your shadow, the underlying beliefs and the underlying root issues are supporting. So you have supportive thoughts. You have supportive beliefs. Your self-talk is not, I'll never be able to do this. This is going to be super hard. I should have already done that. I ought to have already done that. So beating yourself up, right? So instead of beating yourself up, having more love and compassion and feeling trust and having faith and trying a different way and, changing to a new story, all of which kind of go in the same line, right? Not one going up and one going down. So it's aligning. It's like coming into alignment, like making a straight line in school, right? So once what you want consciously is lined up with what is going on subconsciously, now your brain, right? Everything is working in alignment, and change is way more easier to achieve than if you're just going to use willpower and brute force to create the changes. So what's your story? What's your shadow story? What are your old stuck patterns? Once you look at them and really become aware of them and get clear about your why, and develop all these supportive tools, new tools, supportive ways of thinking, that you can actually create lasting change. When I was 12 years ago, when I was stuck in pain, I never thought this was possible. But as I release and let go of all those invisible stories and shame and blame and all those things that don't empower us, right? Because if we keep blaming and then looking at like, oh, my circumstances are responsible for the way I am, I'm just this helpless person, then you're going to be stuck that way. So you want to take charge, you want to become aware, you want to create a different story, you want to change the tools that you're using so that everything supports you towards creating a lasting change. And it does last. I'm here live in front of you, pain-free. And so that's the whole topic today, creating lasting change. I hope that you got something from this, from the tips that I'm sharing. And if you have questions, feel free to post them below. Otherwise, I'll see you again, guys, next week, same time. I think same time, or if it's a different time. It's the holiday season, so if something comes up, I will let you know. In the meantime, I wish you all the very best to creating the lasting change that you want for yourself. Bye, guys.